Welcome to the first part of this hopefully long-running series. In case that you didn't watch episode 0, I'm creating a rhythm game which tries to be as customizable as possible. The first few videos will probably be more technical or in-depth, but as the foundation of the project is built up, I can comfortably relax a bit and get to more fun stuff. Due to the nature of rhythm games, the start of this project is rather different from most games. Usually you'd make your basic player object and then put them in a scene and build on from that. Rather than doing what I just mentioned, first thing we need to do is set up a system that can read external files and import them into the game, these files being what make up a song. I could start the project by creating a prototype of the gameplay itself, but I want to ensure that the systems can handle important data that are covered first, so that I can then base the gameplay around that. If I did this the other way around, it could cause problems for me later. In order to read the data, I must know what files a song should need. For now we need a song, of course. Due to the way my game engine works, these will have to be in .ogg format. We also need a file which contains the gameplay data for the song. Things such as what notes appear at what time in the track, and the metadata, which is including stuff like the song's name and the author. Now I don't want the song creation experience to be so much work that it scares users away, so most of the things you can add are optional. These include song icons, sprites for the notes and keys, a banner, and the background displayed when playing a song. I've wasted enough time now, so let's begin, I guess. The immediate problem is, where do I check for songs? I could set a definite directory, but that's just a terrible idea. So by using a custom save system, we can set user preferences for things like your game's resolution, FPS cap, and of course the directory that your songs are stored in. Now that we know where to find the files, it's time to actually look for them. GameMaker, the engine I'm using, likes to do this, so the process of finding files must be very strict to make sure that all the information we get is valid so the game doesn't crash. First, we look for directories in the parent song directory, each folder being its own song. Inside that folder would be the necessary files to run the song. Once we have all the directories stored in a data structure called item list, we enter each one to see what it contains. You can see here that only the necessary files are initialized as null. The others will remain their default values if no files for those variables are found. If we end up left with any of these as null, the song will be considered incomplete and then just discarded. For most files, the process is simply to use the built-in functions to import them, but some need extra attention, those being the note and key sprites along with the song's icon. This is because you can't import a sprite via image and then give it an origin point. It will always transform from the top left or 0, position. Why do we care? Because first off, the song icon is turned into a record-like sprite later on that will spin around its center. Of course we can achieve this effect with maths, but if you consider someone with 1,000 songs, doing all that math would be awfully expensive. Not only that, but it's just unneeded clutter. As for the notes, well, first we want to scale these to the beat of the music because it looks nice. If the origin point was left untouched, these would only extend from their bottom and right edges rather than equally on all sides. But the actual reason would be that we have to judge the accuracy that a player will hit these notes to determine the score. Without the origin point in the middle, we would have to do extra equations later on, so avoiding that will internally make this project easier to read and manage. Yes, it is equally valid to do either of these, but there are more reasons in favour of the latter argument. I don't want to start using magic numbers. To achieve this effect, we have to use something called surfaces, which are basically like a blank canvas to draw things into, which can then be manipulated in unique ways otherwise impossible without them. We simply create a surface at our desired width and height, then we draw onto that surface with the imported image, making sure to stretch the image to the surface's size in case it was too big or too small. Now that the surface contains the image, we call sprite create from surface. This is the function that allows us to set the origin point to our liking. Importing sprites and creating surfaces uses up memory, so once that's been done we need to delete the original sprite and our surface, otherwise we'll create a memory leak, which is bad news. Something extra that we need to do for the song icon is use a shader when we're drawing in the surface. As I mentioned before, the song icon is a vinyl record-like shape. So using a mask sprite, we overlay the imported sprite onto the mask. This is what the shader is used for. I could alternatively use blend modes for this, but shaders are a much more efficient and neater way of doing things. All of these imported values are stored in an array, which now has everything it needs. Before we officially add it to the game, a check must be done to make sure there are no null values. If there are, then we need to delete all the data, as otherwise that would cause a memory leak, and then finally remove it from the item list data structure. Finally, we copy this temporary array, which holds the data, into a new one to be stored in the master song list. Last of all is to delete the item list data structure, as that would too otherwise cause a memory leak. Thankfully, this process is quite simple once you split it into its individual chunks, so I didn't have any issues implementing this. Now that we can load our songs, the next step is to display our loaded songs in a menu. I hacked together a temporary song only because currently there isn't any UI for making them. I won't go into too much detail on the subject of the drawing code, as it's not very interesting, so I'll try and get through this quickly. Firstly, let's set up the basic drawing of our song boxes. Here is the result, temporary of course. We have the song's icon, its banner, and the name displayed. This is all and well, but this is a menu, not a showcase of a single song, so if we copy and paste our songs folder a few times, we can start working on the basic navigation between multiple songs. When the song selection room starts, we need to do a quick while loop to see how many song boxes will fit onto the screen. If it's below 3, then we will scale everything down, as an odd number, a minimum of 3 is required for how I want this menu to look. Now that we have the amount that can be seen at once, rather than draw all of the song boxes at the same time, we can use this loop to draw only what's necessary. We'll add some tweening and voila! That's all for now. We can properly load a song into the game and display it on a menu. Great. The next part will be covering once again loading a song, but this time we're loading the actual song data file itself, which contains all the important information to be able to edit and play our song. Now I must go as I hear a really strange noise and I need to check it out.